Good afternoon, everyone. New Rasmussen report states that only 69% of the people in the United States would allow you to have free speech to even discuss a climate debate. Those 31% of people don't even want you to discuss how the 60-year-old pattern in the stratosphere switched. The quasi-bicentennial oscillation every couple of years switches from east to west, but this year it's stalled. Also, they wouldn't want you to talk about all-time record rains in Australia that can easily be pinpointed on a pattern going back every 300 years, matched up with good certainty from the French floods and the droughts in Angkor Wat area of Cambodia. Nor would they want you to even discuss the ups and downs, oscillating temperatures across the globe and Antarctica. Nor would they want to give you free speech to talk about this peer-reviewed paper discussing the anomalous ice recovery in the Arctic in 2013. And one of my subscribers would like me to try to pronounce this place, so I'm going to give it a shot. The new Rasmussen report coming out, most oppose government persecution of global warming critics. 30% of the people still want to limit your free speech to even discuss this issue. With attorney generals in 15 states attempting to prosecute corporations and individuals that they believe are misleading the public about global warming, strange thing happened in the stratosphere. Now, we should be debating this quasi-bicentennial oscillation freeze-up. The winds did not switch from west to east like they normally do. They were 6 months late this year, but we should be discussing why. Absolutely, because the forecast is to enter a grand solar minimum, and all the effects that go along with that and affect our societies and food production. It should be at the forefront of our conversations, not people trying to limit our speech on even talking about why the weather's changing other than CO2. This 60-year-old pattern has been incredibly predictable and stable, yet 60 years measuring over hundreds of thousands of years of time cycle is really nothing. It's a pencil line on a mile-long scale, literally. So we're really not going with that much information anyway, but the last 60 years, the stratosphere always oscillates in a 2-year pattern, and it's 30 miles above the equator. This year it stalled and the winds did not reverse in on themselves. This is a graphic pictorial of what the two wind bands look like, but they were blocking the downward movement of the easterlies. Now, this will have some effect in the future on the flow of winds around this planet. It's not an instantaneous thing. It's going to be a delay of about another 6 months to 8 months before we see what really happens and how this is going to transpire. But these 30% of people that do not want you to talk about it, I don't understand why. We should be talking about it because this is going to affect seasonal crop production down the line in the future. These equatorial zonal winds, as you can see, are differentiated by the color and the flow, normally on a 2-year pattern, but this year, again, it's blocked somehow. The westerlies and the easterlies didn't flip like they normally do. With all the decreasing magnetosphere and the effects of the atmosphere shifting and these giant polar lows, I personally believe, along with a lot of others, that it's directly related to the decrease in the solar wind, and we are entering another grand solar minimum. So you would just normally expect these types of effects in our atmosphere to accompany such a 300 to 400 year event. And as I called months ago, look for Australian East Coast to get pummeled with all-time record rains, at least in the last 300 years. And here we go, a matchup of what I previously had said to look for. All-time wettest September on record for the East Coast. Multiple lows. They had 4 lows in a row, just dumping rainstorm after rainstorm. Some amazing images coming out of the outback, driest areas in the country here, rolled over with thunderstorms and incredible rains. Literally 4 times the amount of rain that they normally get. Looking at false color satellites here, you can see the lows coming off, which also dropped temperatures across the entire country. And to get more on, just jump over to John's Weather Channel on Facebook. You can check out the forecast there. But he's talking about how areas in the last 3 weeks receive more rain than they do through the entire spring. Now, taking a look at core data derived from catchment basins, when there's a grand solar minimum, epic rainfall across eastern Australia. Now, this matches right along with the Ios area in France. 1300s, epic floods, I circled in yellow. 1700s, epic floods. This year, again, epic floods in France, so you would just expect that you could forecast out with some certainty that Australia would experience that same mega floods coming because there's a proxy from another part of the planet. Also, if this is true, look for Cambodia. There should be a drought going on there right now, which there is. Now that drought shall intensify as the rains and snow and record cold increase in Australia. Look for more floods across France as well. It's going to continue. It's not a single year event. It's going to be a decade-long event, if not decades, plural. Also, these 30% of the people in the United States that don't want you to have free speech to discuss the climate debate also don't want you to see Antarctica's past temperature dips and rises. Now, this should be an area in the world that's not affected by anything because there's very little industry in the southern hemisphere to begin with. But when we look right around 1800, you see the gargantuan drop-off in temperatures, but then around 1840, you see an increase in temperatures. Looking to the left side, the bottom trough of that was at 32 degrees, and then look at the peak there, 24 degrees. Are you telling me that rose 8 degrees Celsius? And we're still quibbling about 1.5 C, but you can clearly see through the ice core data record that Antarctica has been up and down in a natural variability of temperatures for the last 450 years easily. And it just continues like that back thousands of years. It's always undulating in temperature. Now please try to explain to me how that temperature in 1840 went up 8 degrees C from the bottom point. Also, nice peer-reviewed study talking about how sea ice actually increased after low melting in 2013. Also, these 30% of the people in the United States that don't believe you have free speech to discuss the climate debate would not like you to look and see how every time there's a dip in temperature, it greatly affects society and food production globally. And Val the Pixie sent me this message, said, I would love you to try to pronounce this place because you do pronounce some of your areas that you discuss in your channel. So let's give it a shot here. I might try to say this one just like this. Lienfer pulguin gili gogor chiwar wayentro builant isilo gogo gooch. And if anybody knows where this place is on the map, please tell me. It'll be the world's longest city name, and I would love to go there. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, and I will keep more stories like this coming to you. And as always, as we get through and these weather changes start to modify the growing seasons, please take a look over at Trade Genius with Bob, and you can talk to him how they're starting to forecast out and also play the dips and the rises on the protein content in wheat and also the futures prices.